Hey y'all, welcome back. Y'all come on in. I think today is going to be, what is it? Let me get my notepad. I don't remember now. Be part 3 of the fur-lined moccasins from my sister-in-law. Today we're going to be going over mating the rabbit skins to the actual pieces of the leather. Now there's a couple of things that I do here. First off, I want the parents and the adults when you're dealing with children. This stuff has fumes to it. I don't know how old some of you are, but if you're old enough to remember the times when I was growing up, I'm 65 now. We use this, I use the contact cement. I think I've showed that in a couple other videos. Use this in a very well ventilated area, folks. And if you're old enough to remember the rock and roll days of the 70s and the early 80s, this stuff will get you higher than going to a Led Zeppelin concert. So, with that in mind, let's get started. What I do, I've got the rabbit pelts that I bought. We've already gone over how to cut out the leather. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them. The pelts are going to be first side down. And then the leather, I'm going to be putting the cement on the interior side of it. So you want to just turn it over. But what I do, in order to get the pelts attached to it. Now you can buy this stuff in larger hides. Depending on what you want to line it with. But what I'll do is I'll just take my pencil These pencils are your best friend sometimes when you're working with the dry leather, as you can always go back and erase them. But we're not going to need to worry about that on this. As I also went over when I very first did the patterns and used the tracing film and transferred that over to the leather. As I went outside of the pattern about a ½ inch. The reason why I did that, because I'm going to be using a stitching machine to put them together instead of hand lacing them. That'll be coming up in the next video. The reason why I do this is, now I hope you can tell, what I've done is I've just transferred this piece of leather, I've just transferred that side over to the fur pelt, hide, whatever you want to call them. So here we go. You'll need some contact cement. And once again, as in one of my earlier videos, y'all get you an old towel, an old bed sheet, something that's going to be discarded. It's the best thing to use. Now again, very well ventilated area. Because this stuff will, the fumes off of it will get you loopy. But what I'll do is I'll come in and I like to use the word slather, being liberal with it. And my kitty cat helper, Rosie, for some reason she doesn't want any part of this process. So if you're working with kids, and it's still fine to use this stuff, just make sure that you got windows open or a fan blowing or just some way to vent. And when I get ready to work with this stuff, then I'll usually open a couple of windows or something like that, and I'll turn a fan on where it blows across it. And I'm going just outside my pencil mark. Not very far, but I do want to go outside of it. And you can use this stuff on, even if you got a project that you just finished tooling, because it will not penetrate. I mean, it'll penetrate some, don't get me wrong, but you want to do it on the flesh side, but it's not going to affect your pattern any. Or I never have had it affect the pattern any. Okay, and once you get one side done, and you want to have a place where you can just lay it off to the side. Be careful if you can, adults. Be careful how much it gets on the kids. The best way to get it off of them is just let it dry, and then it'll pretty much just peel off. It's not a rubber cement, but it is kind of similar. So just let it dry, like if it's on your skin or something like that. One thing I am careful of is I don't let any of it get on my tooling surface or anything porous. I'll just use the tip of my finger there to kind of hold it down. You can use several things. Even the end of a pencil, just something to hold it steady. But you want to let it get kind of tacky. Now when you're dealing with raw, unsealed leather, then you can mate the two surfaces pretty quickly because it is soaking into the leather and the hide a little bit. Not much. But the first time you open one of those cans, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. Well-ventilated area. And just kind of get your high points off of it a little bit. All right. And then what I'll do, now if your wife or your mom, your grandmother, or whoever isn't looking, and they've got a rolling pin, roll out a pie crust, I'm just joking. You can go in and use that, but you don't want to get this on any more surfaces than you have to. And then you want to just come in and line up your pencil marks. I may actually have that upside down. No, that's right. All right. Yeah, looks like I am. And then just try to lay it on fairly close to your pencil marks. Try to get it as flat as you can. And what I like to do when I'm making two of them is I'll just start at one end of it. And then we'll just kind of roll it out. And get kind of fidgety, so you just have to kind of work with it. And I kind of like to feel underneath, see if I've got any ridges, which I do. Get this towel out of the way where I got a little bit more of a solid surface. And you just kind of hold it, lay it out. That is really not going to work. Let's start at this end. There we go. And kind of go underneath it, make sure you don't have any ridges under it. I believe we got it that time. And then what I'll do is I'll come in with a roller and I'll just work the edges. I'll work all of it really. Now you're going to want to let this dry overnight. Make sure you get a good bond. And we'll set that off to the side now. That one's good to go. We'll get another one in here. What I've done is I've pre-matched the pelts or the rabbit skins to the leather. I've got a pretty good idea of which ones will work best. Now some of them are a little bit small. If some of them are a little bit small, then that's fine. But if you remember, I've already oversized them. Oh, pardon me. I'm using a pencil now. We'll come in and just get our basic outline. That's all we're wanting. All right. It's going to be kind of rinse and repeat. There's a lot of drying processes that go into this particular hobby. If you're tooling something, you've got it wet, and you kind of have to let it, well, you're not kind of, you have to let it dry overnight before you can move on to your next phase. So this is not a hobby where you can expect to go start to finish with a project all in one day, or at least most of it. Some of it you can. But when you tool it, you gotta let it dry overnight before you can do anything else with it. And if you color it and stain it, you gotta let it dry overnight before you can do anything else with it. That's just how it is if you want the best results. So I don't ever get in a hurry with any of it. But you want to make sure you get a coating on the entire surface. Now if you want to make sure that your hides are flat, really I'm not too worried about it on something like moccasins because they're going to be fluffy anyway. I mean, I'll try to get all of the wrinkles out of it that I can, of course, but I think the sole where the weight of the person and the foot's going to be, and I'll be more concerned with that because you don't want to wrinkle in that part of it. You don't want them to be uncomfortable. On the sides and top and stuff like that, if you get a wrinkle in it or something like that, it's not going to be that big a deal because it's not going to be rubbing the foot. Okay. Lay that off to the side now. I remember going to Dallas, Texas years ago. Got to see Led Zeppelin in concert at the Reunion Arena in Dallas. They did a 4-hour show. And you didn't have to take anything with you. As soon as the house lights went down, all you had to do was keep breathing. By the end of that 4 hours, I mean, there were lighters came on all over that stadium as soon as the house lights went down. By the end of that 4 hours, it was a wonder any of us found our way home. But that's the way it was back in those days. But man, they put on a show. I think they did 3 shows. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. All 3 of them sold out, and I don't remember how big Reunion Arena is, but all 3 of them sold out in under 2 hours. But those were the old rock and roll days. All right, get that rabbit pelt back over here. screw on this one. We'll get it as close as we can. Oh, come on, turn loose of it. That's how well it bonds. But you want to do this if you're putting another liner. There we go. If you're going to be lining the moccasins with anything, even just another material, then don't be afraid to use that contact cement. Make sure you get around all of your edges. Now the roller I'm using, it's a neoprene roller that I got from Tandy or nylon or something like that. But it works really, really good. Even if you do get some contact cement on there, the secret to contact cement is let it dry. And then you can come back in, you just use your fingernail or something, just peel it off without damaging the surface of your roller. Now don't stack these things, at least not yet. Once it dries overnight, then you can, because it's fully cured. But if I were to try to stack these now, then that contact cement, if it were to get close enough to one of these other skins, then it would actually bond to it. And you're going to be pretty much wiped out your project. Because once it cures, and if you buy these pelts from Tandy or whoever, you want to make sure to get all of these labels off of them where they identify them. There's your contact cement's not going to stick to that. Really? Wow. Label didn't have any problem sticking to the hide. We'll layer a piece out there. Go around that. This little rabbit had a tough life. He got some pretty good thorn sticker holes in him. That's all right. That way you know it's the real deal. Don't know where it came from, but if he's a West Texas rabbit, then cockleburs and prickly pears and stuff like that, pretty well got a good idea where those holes came from. Got some thorn bushes out in West Texas that'll almost penetrate through a boot. I don't know if y'all got anything like that or not, but we got some that are pretty vicious. I used to make some leather shaps, if y'all know what those are, those pieces of leather that just wrap around a cowboy's jeans while they were on horseback. I started out making them out of fairly lightweight material, kind of similar to what I'm using here for the moccasins. We discovered pretty quickly that some of those thorns that even penetrate those. So the last pair that I made were out of 7/8 ounce leather, what I used to make belts out of. Those that stopped the thorns, but it was about like trying to use a piece of plywood to wrap around your legs. Wasn't a whole lot of give to them. I only do a few of these pieces at a time, all depending on how big your project is, because sometimes even a well ventilated area, you're still going to get some of the fumes. But again, I want to emphasize, if you're doing it inside, try and pick. Best thing to do is just get you a board or something like that, put it up out. Just set it on top of something out in the garage where you can have the door open. And then leave them out there until this stuff completely cures. That way all of the fumes are going to evaporate. But if you're a adult and you're mom or dad or whoever, and entertaining the kiddos, and just had enough of them for a little while, then they have this on their fingers, and just find some, I mean, just kind of tacky, jokingly, but just find some place out of the way and stick them to it. That'll hold them for a little while. But the best thing to do is just get you a pencil or something like that. Like I said, I'll just use the tip of one of my fingers. Just to keep it from moving. Till I get everything coated. But the main thing is whatever surface you're doing this on. Get you a piece of cloth. I don't really care what it is, it doesn't really matter. Just something you can throw away. I recommend material. Even if you can't peel it off of the project, you can cut it off to the point where it's not going to be visible. But if you use a piece of plastic or something like that, and it happens to stick to it, then you're going to have a tougher time. I like fabric because it'll kind of you can disguise it enough to where you can blend with it. All right, I'm going to seal up the rubber cement, get it out of the way because we're done with it. Now you see what I mean about when it's getting tacky. If you put it on too early, or if you try to bond the pieces too early, I mean, don't get me wrong, it will eventually seal, but you'll have far better success if you wait and let it get a little bit tacky, at least on one surface. See, I can pretty much touch that now and not stick to it. But when this other side gets mated to it, then it's going to stick big time. Get it as flat as you can. And then just lay it on there. And come in with your roller and roll it out. Make sure you get along all of your edges. All right. I've already done the other side. I'll leave these out there and let them dry. what you can do is, after they get cured, even a little bit more if you want to, make sure you got all your edges done. And you can come back and use your roller. Make sure you get all your edges. Is the most important thing. But I'll give you an idea. I've already done, just because of the smell of that contact cement, I've already done the other side, or the other half, other pair, whatever you want to call it. Not a pair, but anyway, y'all know what I mean. But to give you an idea of how well it bonds. These I did the other day. And it'll release some, but not a lot. Where you get good contact, you're gonna be good to go. But they'll stay enough now to where when I do the stitching and stuff like that, then it'll stay where I want it to be. And then that's going to be pretty much it for this round of bonding your two surfaces together. And I'll let these dry overnight, and hopefully maybe tomorrow we can get in here. What I'm going to do is I'll come in with my scissors now. Once these are dry and ready to go, and I'll cut along these edges, and I'll cut the excess off. That way I've just got my pieces. And then we'll get on to the stitching part of it. So all right, with that we're going to let these dry overnight, and hopefully we can, there tomorrow, or the next day, we can get them ready for stitching. Until then, Judy and I like to end our videos as always with, don't be mean. If you're not willing to treat Jesus that way, then let's not treat each other that way, okay? We're here to have fun. We're here to hopefully learn something, give some ideas to some upcoming leather crafters. So until next time, I'm going to say adios. We'll see you next time.